I'm explaining a film from 2023 titled The Killer. Spoilers ahead. Enjoy the content. The film opens with a guy spending 2 days in an empty Parisian room, staring at a skyscraper across the street. Known as the Killer, he is an experienced hitman who is waiting patiently for his elusive target. The difficulty is that he has no idea when the target will show up, so he must keep a close eye on the area. During this waiting period, the killer does yoga, goes outside to eat, and gets a call from Hajes, the person who hired him. Hajes provides hazy information on the target's possible appearance in 2 days, although other days are still probable. The killer becomes increasingly irate about the unclear details and violently smashes his phone. Returning to the vacant building, he remains watchful over the anticipated target's destination, reminding himself not to let emotions hinder success. Renowned for discreetly documenting his numerous kills, the killer, though accomplished, maintains an enigmatic record. One evening as he is adjusting his rifle, there comes an unexpected knock on the door. With a quick aim, the killer is relieved when the victim chooses to leave after taking out some garbage instead of going inside. Afterwards, the assassin tries to nap for a little while, but he can't stop thinking about the target. He beeps his watch every 5 minutes to ward off sleepiness. The assassin prepares his weapons, including his rifle, when he notices signs that the target would soon arrive, such as a servant getting ready in a room. The assassin spots the victim, an old businessman with many foreign enterprises, and follows the victim, with a female entertainment. However, his hand trembles, resulting in an accidental shot that hits the entertainer. Faced with this mistake, the killer swiftly packs up his tools and vacates the vacant building. Escaping on a motorcycle, he disposes of evidence in the sewer and a parked garbage truck before reaching a bridge. He discards his helmet as he dismounts the motorcycle and crosses the bridge. While everything is going on, the killer's quick escape from France is being delayed by security staff investigating the event at the target's location and police monitoring the airport. Due to his forced identity creation, he buys a plane ticket to depart the nation. Hajes texts the murderer in a fit of rage during this delay, fed up with the mishandled assignment. Hajes threatened to kill the murderer, emphasizing how important it was to do the job. As the assassin flew, he began to feel uneasy since someone he didn't know was watching him constantly. The strange onlooker continued. It became clear when they arrived at a transit airport. Opting for caution, the killer chose to spend the night in an airport hotel, vigilantly monitoring the observer. Fortunately, no untoward actions transpired, allowing the killer to board another flight bound for the Dominican Republic, his chosen refuge. Upon arriving, he hastily drove to Magdala's countryside residence, utilizing his preferred vehicle. Despite a lengthy journey, he reached her gate, only to notice peculiar footprints and discarded cigarette butts, raising concern. He armed himself, wary of any possible problems, and crept inside her home. His worry was increased by the bloodstain and the mess in the living room, but Magdala was nowhere to be seen. He hurried to the hospital right away, confirming his fears as Magdala lay in intensive care with severe injuries. The murderer then asked Marcus, a close friend of Magdala, for information. Marcus revealed that 2 strangers, a strong man and a thin woman, arrived at their home in a cab and attacked Magdala viciously. Furious, the murderer fervently promised Marcus that Magdala would never have to go through anything like this again. Subsequently, when Magdala regained consciousness, she confided in the killer, affirming her resilience in not divulging his true identity despite the attacker's attempts to coerce her. Distraught by the incident involving his girlfriend, the killer, without hesitation, returned home to retrieve his concealed weapons from the backyard. His inquiry into the attackers began the next morning, focusing first on the cab service that may have carried them. By using threats, he forced the terrified proprietor to provide details about the cabbie who drove the assailants to Magdala's address. A cab driver called Leo Rodriguez was implicated, the owner confessed, shaking with panic. On the next day, Leo was found waiting for passengers by the roadside by the assassin, who had been watchful and patient. Slyly prepping his weapon in the passenger seat, the assassin pretended to be a traveler in need of transportation. During a silent time, the assassin asked Leo about the 2 passengers he had brought to a remote location close to the woods, all the while keeping a pistol to his head. Terrified, Leo provided details about the appearance of the 2 individuals, corroborating Marcus's description, ensuring the killer maintained the secrecy of his criminal activities. Opting for a decisive action, the killer chose to eliminate Leo before embarking on a mission to locate those responsible for harming his girlfriend. He then took a plane to New Orleans to see Hajes. He purposefully leased a vehicle in the city to get past Hajes's workplace security. The murderer went to Hajes' storage facility before going to his workplace, where he took counterfeit identification documents, which included a phony license plate, that were necessary for eluding the authorities. Getting the equipment he needed to pose as a recycling worker, his goal was to enter Hajes's office without being seen. The murderer entered Hajes's office and pointed his gun at Dolores, Hajes' secretary, managing to avoid any problems. Terrified and taken prisoner, Dolores led the assassin inside Hajes' private sanctuary. While Dolores was imprisoned in the restroom, the contract killer bound Hajes to his chair there. Initiating inquiries about the assault on Magdala, the killer pressed Hajes for information. Hajes, distancing himself from the attack, reminded the killer that it transpired due to the incomplete mission in Paris. The murderer was so enraged by this news that he destroyed Hajes's laptop, which included their previous mission logs. Using a weapon he had carried, the murderer hurt Hajes in an effort to get information about Magdala's attackers. Unfortunately, Hajes, who had already suffered severe injuries from an earlier attack, proved to be unable of providing the needed information before the murderer could extract the necessary facts. Seeing how seriously Hajes was injured, the assassin spoke with Dolores, who demanded that the murderers claim Hajes's death was an accident in order to protect her child's life. The murderer consented, taking Hajes's body to Dolores's house and placing it in a large garbage can. At Dolores's house, she disclosed the location of comprehensive information about the contract killers Hajes had enlisted, including those responsible for harming Magdala. Additionally, she revealed the identity of the primary client, the one who engaged the killer through Hajes to eliminate the elderly man in Paris. Equipped with this knowledge, the assassin planned Dolores's death, deftly orchestrating her fall that evening to make it appear like a stairway mishap. The murderer then made his way back to his storage facility to mutilate Hajes's body. To avoid a police inquiry, he took a boat, dumped some of his body parts into the water, and buried the rest. The murderer traveled to Florida the next day in order to fight the Brute, a fearsome adversary who had attacked Magdala. Once they found the Brute's house, the assassin saw him walking with pals and a dog. The murderer bought meat that had been mixed with sleeping tablets for the dog because he was worried that it might ruin his preparations. Subsequently, he trailed the Brute and his companions to a bar. Upon their return home, the killer provided the drugged meat to the dog. However, the plan faltered as the Brute sensed he was being targeted, leading to a confrontation. Leveraging his extensive experience, the killer eventually overcame the Brute, shooting him dead. The gunshot startled the dog, who made an attempt to go after the murderer. The murderer was able to control the dog and burn the Brute's house to remove any evidence of the crime. Once more, the murderer traveled to New York to face up against Magdala's second attacker, the expert. He saw her drive away from her house. Hours later, he saw her get into a cab and followed, finding out she was going to a fancy restaurant. The assassin went inside and the expert saw what he was after. She persuaded him to join her for dinner, telling him it would be delicious even though she had realized. But the assassin turned on the offer, maybe due of a fear of poisoning. Persuading her to depart the restaurant, they reached a nearby park where the killer shot her. Several days later, he returned to Paris to confront the individual who engaged his services. Suspecting collaboration between this person and Hajes to impart a lesson, the killer trailed the old client to an upscale apartment. A closed door stood in his way, so he had to acquire a phony key online to make a copy. He concealed his plans while waiting for the key by pretending to be interested in joining the building's gym and obtaining illicit weapons from the criminal underworld. After obtaining the fictitious key the next day, the assassin entered the client's flat by duplicating it on the key panel using an employee's ID card. The killer confused the client by showing him his contract killer card, and the client soon realized he was the one Hajes had hired. The client said Hajes had forced him into paying an additional $150,000 because he was afraid of the consequences after the Paris mission's failure. Attempting to extract information about the attack on Magdala, the killer sensed the client's confusion and concluded he was not implicated in harming his girlfriend, opting against taking his life. The murderer returns to the Dominican Republic in the film's epilogue, which reveals that Hajes planned the attack on Magdala. After exacting revenge on those who hurt her, he meets up with his recuperating lover there, and the two of them experience bliss and serenity together. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, do subscribe, like and comment if you'd like to see more videos like this.